Recording?
Yep. I guess we shall.
All right.
Okay.
Hello and welcome back to the Experience of We. As a reminder, I'm Naomi.
And I'm Matthew.
And we are building this channel to share our relational system. And in our previous video, we talked about the experience of existing within the meta-crisis, that we are all children coming up in systems whose underlying cultural beliefs and institutions have led to a series of interconnected crises, such as ecological overshoot and polarization. And that not only are there vast systemic self-reinforcing and interweaving conditions degrading our foundation of living, but also we all have a felt sense of it. On a day-to-day basis, we are all experiencing it in our bodies and in our relationships. And
Well said.
much. And experiencing it can look like things like overwhelm, like depression, anxiety, lonely,
Burnout.
burnout. Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. Loneliness.
Yeah.
Science has shown there is an epidemic of loneliness. It's the kind of thing that you can hear in the news if news is something that you listen to, or you can read it in headlines, and it resonates. The first time I saw a headline during a doom scroll, probably if you know what doom scrolling is, and the first time I saw that headline, oh, wow, there's an epidemic of loneliness. That sounds right. And then I just kind of moved on from it. But that's actually a pretty heavy thing to find out. There's an epidemic of loneliness. Epidemics are dangerous. I've been led to believe or understand. And so, yes, that is one of the many symptoms of this phenomenon that we call the meta-crisis.
And my understanding of the way epidemics work, I didn't even think about this before recording this video, so let me know if this resonates.
Yeah.
My understanding of the way that epidemics work is that they're largely self-reinforcing, that they spread, and that the only way to stop them is to intentionally intervene.
Yeah. I'm remembering my high school etymology class. Epidemic means upon the people.
Whoa.
Upon the people.
Upon the people.
Upon the people was the sort of root definition of epidemic. And so when I think of upon the people, what I think of is everyone is existing within this same kind of relational field of loneliness.
Yeah, we're all experiencing it in the water that we swim in.
And loneliness is not an off and on switch. Loneliness exists across a spectrum. Based on my observations and lived experience, I have experienced many kinds of loneliness. So many kinds of loneliness. There's the kind of loneliness where you're alone in a space, just completely by yourself, no other bodies around you. I've experienced that kind of loneliness. I've experienced loneliness in a room full of people.
Yeah, loneliness in a group.
That's a very particular sinking feeling.
I almost feel it just talking about it.
Yeah. I've experienced the loneliness of laying in bed with someone that I've been married to for 15 years. That's a very acute and particular kind of loneliness to feel. And I've also felt togetherness, and laying in bed with someone I've been married to for 15 years.
Right.
I've felt togetherness in a room of people And I also have felt the absence of loneliness in a room completely by myself.
Yeah, I felt at oneness by myself. And so loneliness exists across a spectrum. And particularly if we fill our life with pleasant things, with movies we like, with get-togethers with friends, episodically, if we stay busy, it can be easy not to feel most of our loneliness. And then sometimes maybe when we're physically alone or there's a slowdown in our life, that feeling sort of creeps back in.
Yeah, I years and years ago when I first started practicing meditation, I sat down to meditate, and if you haven't done a meditation practice, part of it is just sort of letting your mind, not focusing on anything in particular, and seeing what comes up. And what came up for me was loneliness. Oh wow, I feel lonely, and that is one of the things that meditation is supposed to surface.
Yeah. For me, when I first started meditating, which was with Matthew, loneliness came up for me in a different way, where we were sitting doing the Headspace app from Sam Harris, I think it was.
I think I think that's called waking up.
Oh, thank
There
you.
there is
Right, it's right,
it's
right.
different.
Yeah, so the Waking Up app from Sam Harris, and we were sitting there doing our meditation, and loneliness reared its head within me in a different form, which was thinking of all of the text messages I hadn't responded to, and the emails, and the people that I said I'd get together with but hadn't, and the overwhelm of all of these connections that were active in my life, yet I had no energy to participate in.
And that was an important discovery, I think, that you were embedded within a field of relationships where you did not have a sense of belonging.
Yes.
That you were in a sense drowning in a sea of relationships that were not returning energy and where you did not feel belonging.
That is so accurate. That is so accurate. It is so possible to drown in a sea of friendship that doesn't actually touch my heart or make my body feel safe. Which brings us to the subject of this video, which is that the experience of we has the capacity to be many things. And at this part where the roots are finding their way into the ground, the version of it that we want to bring, that we think is the most approachable, that we want to co-create with you, is what we call a sanctuary for belonging. We all have an embodied sense of belonging or lack thereof. A lot of us have experienced that sense of belonging, at least in moments of connection with people, maybe during peak experiences or during very relaxed, mundane experiences. Most of us have felt a moment. And most of us have felt the sustained feeling of lack of belonging. There's an embodied experience that is not belonging. It, to me, feels like a sinking feeling in my chest. It feels like hyper focus and hyper awareness, like needing to track every detail of everyone because I'm not safe to really let down.
Yeah, I resonate with that and would add that for me, it also includes a sense of tension to be in a room of people where I don't feel belonging. There's a sense of tension upon approach. If I approach someone to talk and I don't have that embodied sense of belonging, then I'll feel a tension on approach and a sort of narrowing of awareness kind of hyper focus, a narrowing of my sense of what is possible to say, I think
Yeah.
is a big one for me. What can I say here? Hey, how's it going? So, what brought you here? What do you do for a living?
Oh gosh.
And that's
Yeah.
what a dead and lifeless question that feels after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, which isn't to say that the things that we give our time and energy to aren't worth talking, but just that defining ourselves as relational beings based on how we contribute to the socioeconomic system is a very limited way to describe human beings.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't think about the people closest to me, the people that I love the most, in terms of how they make money.
No,
I don't think
no.
of them that way. And yet the default at least in the United States where we live, one of the default modes of getting a sense of someone is how they make money, how they support themselves, how they participate in consumption, I think.
Yeah, which often is based on their role and not their felt experience of that role. So, so yeah, what you were talking about, the narrowing of focus, the narrowing of a sense of what you can say, a narrowing for me of access to my own perspective, where my perspective diverges from the social norms. Oh, oh, did
Yeah,
you want to say something?
the sense of possibility, the sense of
Yeah.
possibility. I know, for instance, with you, we have not almost, we have complete belonging between each other, and there's genuinely nothing I can't say to you, and believe me, we've tested
We've
this.
tested this.
We-
Man, we've been through some stuff.
Yeah, we have no filters with each other. And so I know what the experience of having a person in my life that there's nothing that I think, nothing that I've thought in the past, nothing that I've done that I haven't been able to share with you. It's a profound experience, let me tell you.
It's a profound experience where like all the possibility space is open. Any feeling that comes up, any memory, things surface that wouldn't surface in any other way because that space exists.
It's a profound experience. And it gives us the capacity to see the way that the possibility space in relationships shrinks when we don't have the space to share freely and safely with people. And so we have a kind of privilege.
Yes.
I think it's really important
Yes.
to name this cleanly, is that Naomi and I are sitting in a kind of abundance that we notice is rare, which is that we have no secrets from each other. We have no open dissonances with each other. And we have a sense of belonging that is so profound and complete that it gives us a sense of where that belonging does not exist in other relationships. And those look like growth points for our other relationships. And for some people, that can look like danger to be avoided. And it's the having the sense that there are places not to go in relationship with people, like where the possibility space is constrained by the fear that we might say something that offends someone, that triggers someone.
That creates unsafety for the other person or us or both in the relationship. And so common examples are getting together with a family for the holidays. Our religious perspective or political perspective diverges from theirs. That sense of contraction is a very common example. Another common example is in romantic relationships, when there are aspects of the romantic relationship where we don't feel fulfilled. Those often become what Matthew and I call relational dead zones.
Yeah, dead zones. You can't talk, not that you can't talk about them, but that talking about them becomes a kind of existential threat for the relationship. And then we condition ourselves to avoid the dead zones. And then in our lived experience, the dead zones grow over time, and then they start to sort of congregate. So imagine if you imagine a circle, that's a relationship.
Yep.
And it starts out with these little dead zones that are far away from each other. And then you imagine the dead zones starting to grow, and now they grow into each other. And now seemingly isolated dead zones in the relationship start to congregate. And now you get these larger and larger dead zones. And soon you have this tiny maze running through the dead zones of the areas where you can safely interact with each other. And you have to stay within those lines and boundaries to avoid a dissonance that becomes a conflict.
Yes. And the relationships like that often end up feeling almost scripted. Like there's a certain kind of interaction we can have, and that's the only kind of interaction that we're going to have. And we just play our part.
Yeah, I had this chilling moment. As I've mentioned, I have a previous marriage. It's so weird. It's hard to talk. I have a previous marriage. There is a human being on earth that I once was engaged in a marital relationship with.
Who isn't me?
Who isn't you? Because otherwise I'd probably just be addressing you directly.
Yeah.
And I had this experience kind of late in our marital relationship where we had set aside a time for a date. And we were really looking forward to it. And we went to a restaurant that we both liked. And we sat down and we're across from each other and we're smiling and things feel positive. And I realized I didn't know what to say. That we had so many dead zones in the relationship that having an expanded space and period of time for open-ended conversation now risked venturing into these dead zones that we had been avoiding. And we'd been so busy, it was easy not to touch the dead zones. But if we had any space together, almost anything that we say could eventually lead to one of the dead zones.
Yes, totally. And the thing is, every relationship has the capacity to end up there. Mm-hmm. We all come into relationship from different perspectives, different life experience, different biases, different trauma patterns. Mm-hmm. And so any relationship has the capacity to end up there. And one of the questions that the experience of we seeks to respond to is how to not end up there. Or if we are there, how to regenerate the relationship.
Yeah.
And so that sort of brings us back to the main thread, a sanctuary for belonging.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that creating and maintaining belonging is hard, whether it's in a romantic partnership or friendship or friend group or family, one of the reasons that creating and maintaining belonging is fragile is that we have basically a binary switch within our bodies that can, in a moment, turn us from being a we into a you and me.
Yeah. And then even further, it can turn a you and a me to an us and them. Now you're us.
Now you're them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so just a little book recommendation here, if you have the time. It's called Behave, The Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst by Robert Sapolsky, who is a neuroscientist. Here's the book. We'll try to put a link to it in the show description. And so one of the many things that Robert discusses in Behave is that there is a switch involving oxytocin, by the way, which a lot of people think of as the love chemical. But oxytocin, and we shouldn't, we don't want to reduce it to oxytocin. There are a number of other hormones and neurochemicals involved in almost any feeling that we have. But the essence of this switch that Robert describes in his book is that based on our perception in the moment, a particular hormone, oxytocin, can either trigger a deep sense of connection and belonging with someone, a sense of in-groupness, or based on our perception, just in what we perceive in the moment, it can trigger the opposite. It can trigger a sense of hostility and againstness and out-groupness, even with people that we love, even with people that we have had a close and ongoing connection with for a very long time. My grandparents, my maternal grandparents, were married for over 50 years. I don't remember exactly how long. And my grandfather would sometimes say seemingly innocent things that would trigger my grandmother, and she would hit him. She would just hit him in the middle of a conversation. And so even people who have spent many, many years in something like a marital relationship can be triggered into againstness.
Yeah, and the case of your grandparents is a good one to illustrate the reinforcing property of this switch. That my understanding is that when the oxytocin switch, among other things, flips to the in the separation direction, that it reinforces, it's reinforcement learning, such that every individual instance we have of that is a data point that our body receives. And those data points accumulate over time. And so in the instance of your grandparents, they both had a lot of data points with each other where that binary switch flipped towards separation and againstness. And so it was very easy to trigger into physical violence. Whereas Matthew and I, as we said, we exist in this abundance of belonging together where we can say anything that's authentic for us and communicate it safely and be held in it. And so our bodies have a lot of very high salience data points of belonging together. Times that we've gone through triggers that we thought would have the other one abandon us and we didn't. Things like that. Very emotionally meaningful data points of belonging. And we can still have moments where one of us or both of us is experiencing a trigger and we have that embodied sense of separation, that embodied sense of it's him and me.
You're the other now.
Yeah.
It was a kind of we-ness. We call it we-ness. Oh, we're in we-ness. Oh, now you're other again. Now my nervous system feels a sense of threat by what you said or what you did, or what I might even simply be afraid that you might do. In other words, in fact, this happened just today. As we were setting up for the video, my mind said, I think you just did something that annoyed Naomi. She might be annoyed at you right now. And so I just said, hey, Naomi, are you annoyed with me?
And I wasn't, and I told him that. But if I was, it would be my responsibility to say, yeah, I do notice that coming up.
And so I think the thing that I want to reinforce here is that we can experience separation, that sense of againstness or otherness, sometimes just by imagining or having a moment. Like, I didn't intend to imagine that you were annoyed with me. It's something in my mind triggered that thought. It wasn't based on anything that you did in the moment. It wasn't based on anything that happened or anything that I intended to think about. And yet I still had a moment of coming out of the sense of we-ness into potential otherness simply by a random moment of a thought arising in my mind. And we all have the capacity for moments like that. And for some of us, those moments become a way of being.
Yeah. Just using this as an example, when you thought that I might be annoyed, you have the relational safety to bring it to me. You have the self-awareness to notice that it's coming up at all.
Right.
It's easy for predictions like that, predictions like my companion is annoyed with me, to happen in the background and for us not to notice. And so, yeah, for Matthew and I, when that feeling of againstness or otherness gets triggered, we have the relational safety and the introspection tools and the communication tools to tell each other. But it takes practice. It wasn't always this smooth between us.
Definitely not. We have had some very laughable and prolonged misunderstandings.
Yes, man, we've had some long misunderstandings. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but let's return to the main thing.
I resonate. So we are creating a sanctuary for belonging. And what that means to us is creating conditions for belonging that are sustainable for anyone who wants to participate in them. So often, we experience a sense of embodied otherness from our relational partners or from groups based on there being very rigid standards for belonging. So a lot of subcultures have aesthetic standards for how you dress or how you speak that are necessary to sustain belonging. A lot of relationships have things that we're not supposed to talk about if we want to continue feeling belonging. And so our desire is to create the embodied conditions necessary for belonging to be sustainable, no matter what our truth is. Because for Matthew and I, we both belonged to a lot of different subcultures before we did this. Like, man, so many. Everything from athletic endeavors to like queer culture,
to Burning Man culture,
Yeah.
to self-improvement culture.
spiritual circles.
Yeah. We've tried so many different subcultures in our own search for that sustained sense of belonging to a group. And inevitably, in every group that we felt drawn to, we reached their edges. We reached the boundaries of the group. And anywhere where our worldview or our feelings diverged from the group boundaries, we suddenly became an other.
Yeah.
We suddenly became an other. If we did not strictly adhere to, I guess I'd say, the identity boundaries of the group.
Yeah.
That these groups all had identity-based boundaries. And if we diverged from those boundaries, we found ourselves sometimes very suddenly on the outside. We have formed groups. Like, we have formed
Yeah.
groups.
We have founded groups.
Only to find that ourselves on the outside of the group that we had developed. And so we've had that experience too.
And largely, as you were saying, it happened when our perceptions, our feelings, our values, our calling diverged from the group identity. Which brings us to the structure that we're trying to create here for a sanctuary for belonging. And that is one where it is our living of shared values that creates belonging. That it doesn't have to do with our gender identity or ethnicity or socioeconomic class.
Our spiritual
our
expression,
spiritual
our
expression.
political leanings.
Yes, big one,
Yeah.
big one. But instead, it's, are we living according to shared values? How those values express is determined by the unique self-expression of every beautiful and diverse node of a social species. But are we living according to shared values? And we've begun mapping out some of those values in our context series. There were a number of them included. There are more to explore that will be coming out through these videos. But yeah, living according to shared values, the understanding of which, the meaning of which, and the dynamic tension between which we are calibrating and attuning on together over time. So in other words, this isn't just Matthew and Naomi have a hierarchy of values that we're like, well, you can belong with us if you follow these values in this way. But it's more like Matthew and Naomi have a sense of the values that are most important and how they relate to each other. And also Matthew and Naomi are constantly updating their understanding and expression of those values with people that we're in relationship with.
And by using shared values as the basis for belonging, it creates, we hope it will create a space where diversity of thought and opinion does not have to trigger againstness. That people who see things very differently might still feel a sense of belonging together. That there must be a way to do that, and
Yes.
yeah, and creating a sense of we are still a we, even when we disagree.
Yes, we are still co-creating reality with each other. We're still unfolding life together, even when we have different perspectives.
Yeah, because our lived experiences, that's oftentimes where belonging starts to fracture, at the point where our sense of identity becomes fused with our opinions or our perspectives. And then it becomes, instead of like a permeable boundary, because in a safe relationship, boundaries can be permeable. In permeable boundaries, information and energy can flow back and forth across the boundaries if it's permeable. But if it's a rigid, if it's a hard boundary, then there are no channels for information or energy to flow back and forth,
Yes.
between two people or between two cells. And so by not creating rigid identity-based boundaries, but rather making fluid values-based boundaries, which is what we've done with each other, there's the potential to create a sense of belonging that is not as fragile as an identity is fragile. Because identities that can't move or shift are brittle. And whereas, I guess, a sense of boundaries based on a fluid expression of values that are adaptive to the moment, can be resilient,
Yes.
can be flexible.
Yes.
And so that's something that Naomi and I have done together. And it's something that we want to invite others into. And so if you are watching this video, if you can hear our words, we're inviting you into the experience of we. We're inviting you into a space where your belonging is not limited to the boundaries of your identity. That we are trying to create a space that is large enough for who you are and what you think and feel, without needing to collapse or pull away from you, which I think is the experience that most people have had in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. we are seeking to create a space of belonging whose identity is also, or whose space for holding is also bigger than our identity, is bigger than the group identity, is as big as it needs to be to accommodate life in all of its unique niche expressions.
And by life, we mean human life and more than human life.
Yeah.
That's big enough for all life on this planet.
Yeah.
Though I don't know that we're going to be hosting a hamster on these videos anytime soon.
No.
Though if we found a hamster that could talk, we would ask their consent, I guess, first.
And get to know them.
So we would have to build that relationship
Yeah.
before we would bring them into the videos. But they would be invited into our sanctuary of belonging.
They would.
And so are you. And so this is an invitation. If you are hearing our words, then you are receiving our invitation to join us in this sanctuary of belonging. We want to keep this sanctuary open for as long as we can. And as long as we are able to keep it open, you will be invited here, wherever you come from, however you feel, whatever you think, as long as you are willing to negotiate consent and boundaries and values with us as an ongoing relational process, you're welcome here.
Yeah. So with that, I want to do a little apple juice toast
Oh, sure.
to resilient belonging.
We didn't tell our companions to prepare apple juice for this occasion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Maybe next time.
maybe next time. We look forward to having a drink with you.
Yeah, yeah. Non-alcoholic though.
Yeah, yeah. Fruit juice is great.
Yeah, because my understanding is we're not supposed to drink alcohol on YouTube.
Yeah, it really is apple juice.
Yeah, yeah. We thought about having someday having a glass of wine with you, and then found out YouTube doesn't like that. So.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.